Good afternoon, everybody. Yat ea kwasana eya Dr. Sean Secretaro initiate ko hoji later na siya. Takapahanish na na kaine bashish ching da shi che a shinle to shinala a class chinle to hoji later kere what. I'm a member of the Kennesato Band of Navajo, and I'm very pleased to share our UNM Pollen program with you today. Next slide. The acknowledgements to our elders, our survivors, the great leaders and future generations. My great-grandmother always told me, always remember who you are, where you're from, and where you're going in life. And I honor the Pollen students who are in our program and who have graduated. There are pictures of them throughout the presentation. I'm extremely very honored to present one of the top educational leadership programs in the country. The research presentation will begin with the sense of purpose, the background and demographics of pollen, the corn pollen model, spiritual, mental, physical, and social well-being. And we also have a special guest, Ina Montoya, who's Hickory, Apache, and Diné. And she's a pollen graduate who will also share her insights in her current position as principal at Dulce Elementary School. The pollen program is designed to increase licensed school principals serving Native American students in the state of New Mexico. We currently represent 11% of the state population, yet only less than 3% are principals or teachers, according to the New Mexico Department of Education. Our coursework is being redesigned to meet the needs of Native communities throughout the state of New Mexico. Also, we focus on leadership, vision, epistemology, and culture, and also provide effective mentorship during and after the program. The pollen timeline: in 2016, we were funded by the W.F. Kellogg Foundation for 3 successful cohorts. Dr. Viola Flores was a member of the grant writing team, and she was the one who wrote the grant. We're very pleased and honored to have worked with her as well. In 2017, our first cohort graduated 13 advanced teachers. And then also we partnered with the American Indian Professional Educators Collaborative and the American Indian Educational Mentorship Program grant to provide additional resources for our students to acquire books, supplies, and paying for an additional course and licensure. We also were highly successful in our external evaluation completed in 2017 by the McCrell evaluators. And then in 2018, we graduated our second cohort of 11 advanced teachers. We also held our 2018 Pollen Symposium to honor promising practices in Native leadership and education in 2018. In 2019, we graduated 8 advanced teachers. And also we were awarded this past year, Grow Your Own Teacher Grant for the New Mexico Legislature for another 3 successive cohorts. And in 2020, we accepted 9 advanced teachers who are currently taking their first semester here at UNM. And finally, we also have a Pollen 5 cohort where we're currently recruiting for applicants who will begin this coming summer of 2021 in our 5th cohort. The admission requirements for our program: a valid level 2 or 3 teaching license, a master's degree from an accredited college and university. We have advanced teachers planning to become a licensed school principal and commit to becoming an administrator in a predominantly Native American school. Submit a graduate school application for UNM, 3 letters of recommendation from a supervisor, a principal, tribal leader, official transcripts along with a UNM biography form, and also a writing sample. And then we have them go through and lead interviews our students as well. The demographic information: 31 have completed our program. We have a 97% on-time completion rate. 96% of our students passed the New Mexico licensure test on the first attempt, and 87% have assumed leadership roles in their schools. We have an indigenous-based curriculum, and courses include Bureau of Indian Education information. We also have increased the amount of female leaders in the state. And then also we have 40 pollen participants from cohorts 1 through 4. So the tribes and ethnicities represented, Acoma Pueblo, we admitted 6 Anglos, Chiricahua Apache, Hispanic, Jicarilla. We have 2 from Laguna, 1 from Mescalero, Santa Domingo, Santa Clara, San Felipe, Taos, and Navajo Nation represents 2/3 of our students. We have 2 from Utah, one from 2 from Arizona, 1 from Utah, and 22 are from New Mexico, excuse me. So what we follow in our framework here, this is a framework that was developed in 1997, and it's called Atratadin Mahanet. And then as you see here at the bottom of this screen, we chose corn as our symbol for growth. And we are all born with the social well-being, which is relations and family, also the mental well-being, and then the spiritual well-being of our purpose, and then the physical well-being of body. As students progress in their education, we have early childhood and elementary, they learn linguistic well-being, the emotional well-being, environmental, cultural well-being. And as they continue to go through adolescence and adulthood, you have the artistic, the cyclical, medicinal well-being, and economic well-being. And then finally, when they become professionals or elderly status, professional well-being, intellectual, political, and technical well-being. And in Navajo way, Atratadin means corn pollen. So that's what we use to bless ourselves every time we reach a milestone in our careers, in our life, and also to honor a new life that's come into this world. And as you can see, our model is holistic. It's a strengths-based model that we used. All of our students learn the 16 pillars. So we have resources, challenges, plan of action, and follow-up. If you look at the inside of the circle. And as you can see, there are 4 quadrants here with the spiritual, and then the mental, the physical, and social well-being. So all 4 work together to create balance. And this is what we use in higher education to keep our students in school. The spiritual well-being, what we do is implement education from an Indigenous perspective. The curriculum includes field experiences and cultural competencies. We use an integrated approach to teaching and learning. And what we do is we have an induction ceremony for all pollen participants. They learn the corn pollen model and giving back to school and tribal community. Pollen 1 had one member that said this program has made us reflect and dig deep within ourselves to realize and discover what our Indigenous values are. We grew up with them in our culture, we taught them, but we were kind of tucked away because the way Western education is kind of drilled into your mind this way, this way. So by enrolling this program, it allowed me to realize that these values are my strengths. This is where I'm grounded, this is where I'm from. It's really brought what's important to the forefront to me. What's important to me as an Indigenous educator within my community to promote and advocate for. So that's what Pollen program has done for me. That's from the McCrell report. And as you can see, we use a change model. It's a pathways to successful change from Noster, Lippitt, and Grant Lichtman. We use their change model. And as you can see at the bottom of this chart, you have vision and holistic well-being, inclusiveness and belonging, which belongs to the cultural well-being, linguistic, language, communication, collaboration, consensus, artistic well-being of skills and pedagogy equals successful change. If these are missing any components, as you can see, like for example, giftedness, your end result will be anxiety. If you're missing collaboration, the 3 C's, you're going to have a disconnect with your school or your students. And then also inclusiveness and belonging, you're going to have silos and division if you're missing that. And then vision, if you don't have that, you're going to have confusion. The mental well-being, what we try to do is incorporate all licensure competencies within our curriculum. And also we have in, incorporated UPI framework from the university, as well as the national standards. So the students are actively involved in research presentations along with faculty. We presented at the National Indian Education Conference, the Northern Arizona American Indian Tech Conference. We also have published 3 research articles highlighting pollen, and also our external evaluation was very successful. One comment is the good thing about our professors, they're keeping in mind that we're from native schools of serving native populations, and that helps us directly when we go back to our school after we achieve licensure. So on with the next. And as you can see here, again, the change model comes into play: curriculum and learning, commitment and compassion, experience and mentoring, technology and STEM equals successful change. So if you're missing technical well-being, like many of us are experiencing with the Zoom and learning how to use these technical items, then if we don't have that within our staff, we're going to become obsolete. Same with the experience and mentoring, there's gonna be a lack of support if that's missing. If you don't have commitment and compassion, you're going to have a school that or organization you don't care. And finally, there's going to be lack of assessment for curriculum and learning. The physical well-being, and what we focus on a lot is the internship, which is for 2 semesters. Our classes meet 3 times a semester. We visit our students at their respective schools, and a lot of our Pollen members are members who volunteer with our activities here at UNM. And then, as you can see here, the internship class has been very, very helpful. Both the tag leader and faculty member have been supportive. They've gone out to schools and done presentations, made phone calls. They're pretty prone to that, emailing us. And they made us think critically about ourselves and practice as leaders. It's made me the person I am and has helped me find myself as a leader. So that's from a participant from our Pollen 1. And again, with the physical well-being, with the change pathway, medicinal change well-being, forgiveness and balance, timeline and planning, cyclical well-being, environmental well-being is a safety zone, and then finally physical well-being, health and self-care. So if that's missing, you're going to have medical complications. A safety zone is you're going to have fear in your organization, as well as if you don't honor timeline and planning, you're going to have a staff that's wandering. And finally, anger if you don't have forgiveness and balance. The social well-being is the final quadrant. And what we plan on doing is establishing a professional network of fellow school educators who are committed to improving Native education beyond the state of New Mexico as well. We did a pollen symposium. We visit schools. We work with the UNM Institute for American Indian Education, volunteer work. We also have an academy for children and our leadership opportunities within the school system. And one participant says, what I liked about the Pollen program is focused on Indigenous community, and being an Indigenous leader, it gives me great hope. I had 12 other colleagues here who are all Native. We're all working in our respective communities over this year and a half. We're able to get to know them on a personal level and work and hear about the work they're doing. I'm grateful for the program. I think a lot of us originally applied to the program because it was free, but it's so much more than that. I'm hoping that it continues. It's something very grateful that I'm very grateful for. And last is the quadrant here: family and communities, ongoing effective development, resources, and trust equal successful change. So if you're missing political well-being, there's failure to launch. If you're missing economic well-being and resources, you have frustration, resistance, ongoing effective development. If that's missing, you're gonna have lost people. And then finally, if families and communities are not in your school system, you're going to have a lack of encouragement. And the challenge is we've had high turnover rates for Native school principals, the technology access due to the remoteness of each community, access to Bureau of Indian Education statistics for educators and principals, limited resources in the school district for leadership support, nepotism and favoritism in school hiring practices. COVID-19, all of our schools and communities have been severely impacted. Course content is sometimes overwhelming due to public, Bureau of Indian Education, BIE grant, and charter school information to learn, double duty for a lot of our students, and also challenging school leaders who do not wish to help teacher interns, and of course, financial aid. And the future implications, continue building research in Native school leadership and administrative pathways. Summer virtual symposium to share promising practices in Native school education leadership, build our Pollen network through technology and conferences, share our success at conferences and tribal meetings, continue to follow up and assist Pollen 4 and 5, 6 cohorts to graduate and pass the state licensure, funding opportunities such as the LANO, Department of Education, and other foundations, improve and update the corn pollen model, and collaborate with the Bureau of Indian Education for statistics and best practices. And our special guest, Ina Montoya, who is from Pollen 3. Are you there?
I am here.
Okay, Ina, take it away.
Yay. Okay. Well, Danjo, she Ina Montoya Shiji, Dulce she Nasha. Hello, I'm Ina Montoya, and I'm from Dulce, and I'm the principal at the elementary school. This year we have 320 students, which is a goal that we've had for about 4 years of enrollment. And those of you who are tied to enrollment with funding, that's a big thing. Lots of things, I guess, from Pollen, what I got, everything that Dr. Secretarial talked about, you saw me nodding my head because a lot of it was part of what has gotten me through last year. And definitely this beginning of this year, we're about to finish our first 9 weeks, and it's been a roller coaster. And so what I do is focus definitely on all the 4 aspects: well-being, and social, spiritual, physical, and mental, and all of that is encompassed just naturally in who we are as Native people. And that's what I liked about Pollen, because it gave you those mechanisms to be able to pull from in your life, to be able to survive. And definitely, so I did register because it was free, and I did cling to my classroom and kicking and screaming and to be enrolled in Pollen. And then when I graduated, I was very reluctant to apply, but that was part of the clause. And so here I am, year 2 as a principal, and we have moved from MRI status in the state to CSI status in the state, and that came from the ABCDEF status of NMPED. And if you look at Dulce Elementary and you Google NMPED status, we were F for about 7 years. So that's kind of where we had a lot of turnover for principals. The year before I became principal, we had our first turnaround principal hired, and he quit by October. I think he worked from June to October, and then he resigned. And our interim superintendent stepped down, became principal, but then at the end of the year, that superintendent was put on probation, like paid leave. And so then our principal had to become principal / superintendent. So at the end of that year, there were a lot of holes. And so when I came on last year, I had to rebuild a lot of things, like the pre-K handbook. I had to build the handbook, student handbook. I didn't understand what CBA negotiations were, which is collective bargaining agreement. A lot of things I didn't understand how to do a New Mexico dash plan. And so Pollen taught me, and Dr. Russell, you could attest to this, that you could definitely ask anybody in your district to be able to answer some of the questions. So a quick day in the life of the profession here on the reservation. We have, Wednesday, I finished filing a child abuse case And then we had a resignation, a sped teacher put in her 30 days. And then we had parents calling about technology. We have a lot of grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, and so we have to walk them through. I've been able to network with the Cultural Affairs Office, the tech person that was there. He's not working, but he's still getting a full paycheck. And he just called one day and said, do you guys need help? And he was bored. He was bored at home. So what I did was I got his number and I channel all of our grandmas to him, because he is at the grandma pace. You know, he's at that point where he says, you know, this, you have to click on this red rectangle that has the phone in it in order for your grandchild to lead the class. He does that versus our IT guy, who is very good. And he is like New York speed, and you have to be at his speed to be able to communicate with him. So those kind of things during the day. We've had our Hickory teacher resign, and now we have to figure out somebody else to fill that and fulfill our state requirements of native language teaching. So thankfully, I still have my native language teaching license, but I'm only doing packets, and it's until we get somebody hired. So I'm talking to everybody I can possibly talk to. We network with a lot of tribal departments, and because I'm from here, I know where everybody lives, and so home visits aren't that hard. And I'm okay to take biscuits for dogs that are strays and, you know, that just kind of hang around a student's house that you're trying to get into. And so, you know, things like that. That's just a day in the life of a principal. So strategies are definitely using my why. Why am I here? And I can I'm slow at data analysis, and I apologize to Dr. Secretary, because I see a paper and I see a face. I say, oh, this is, you know, little David, and he's such a gentle boy, and he listens very well. That's why his score on listening is really high, and his score on speaking is very low. And so that's how fast my data analysis goes. I need to be faster on that. So my why am I here? And it's because I get to give back. I get to be a face that my students can look up to. Their parents that I knew when they were small get to look up to, and they tell their children, you know, this is Miss Ina. She's not going to be mean unless you really misbehave. And so when I go into classes, I can see faces again, and I can say, how are you? Good morning. And then I say their name, and they're, hi, Miss Ina, you know, things like that when I virtually go do my walkthroughs through classes. And so that's my why. Also, I'm able to now have parents and grandparents, mostly dads and uncles, get mad at me, but I can just listen to them and know that that's not me that they're yelling at. It's the fact that maybe they can't read very well, and they're a grown-up, and they're supposed to be helping their little nephew or their little cousin or whatever, and that's where that connection's made. And then I go, oh, well, thanks for letting me know. Let's see if we can try it this way instead. And then we walk them through. So those kind of things. What is your why? Why are you here? Why did you complete the Pollen program? Why did you decide to become a principal? And I'm from here. I mean, I'm not going to go anywhere. Even if they didn't hire me as principal again, I would still find a job serving students. And so that's kind of the grit that we have here in the reservation, and that's what I see that Pollen was. That's who they found, and that's who they recruited, and I didn't see that. And Dr. Secretarial and Rosalind Carroll, they came to my classroom, and they saw it. They saw it in me, and they recruited me, and here I am. And I really like the job, and it is very harrowing. I do need to pay attention to a lot of the red flags, and we do have a superintendent who is very mindful of that. So when I tried to talk my Hickory teacher down from quitting, my blood pressure was high, and it was visibly high, and our nurse's assistant has been doing checks on me and that kind of stuff. So I had to step back and just, you know, it's not your fault. This is something you can't control, and you know, you just come back to work the next day. So last thing, I remember this scared me. It's the job position thing of a principal. And I remember it was Dr. Russell, were you the one that showed us in class that day that he said, this is a pretty common job description. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness. And then I got mine and I thought, oh, well, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I don't know how to do that. And it wasn't as overwhelming as I thought. So that's a good thing. Lots of relationship, lots of lists, lots of really knowing what you're supposed to be doing to take care of the school, the building, the children, that kind of stuff. Law, I kind of still look up a little bit because it does change, of course, with this recent one. So that's definitely it. And again, I always go back to, why am I here?